few blackberries this morning. Today we're going to make blackberry pastries, and this particular one is layered. So it'll have a puff pastry bottom, and then it'll have a blackberry jelly type topping. Then on top of that will be a cream cheese topping, and then once it comes out of the oven and is completely cooled, then it'll have a glaze over the top of that. So basically about 4 layers, not counting the egg wash. First things you want to do is preheat your oven to 400 degrees and line a tray with parchment or wax paper, something that's going to help it not stick. Okay, the first thing you're going to want to do is in a saucepan, you're going to want to take 1 cup of fresh blackberries, 1/8 of a cup of sugar, and a tablespoon of lemon juice, and just kind of get this going around until it kind of makes a sauce. So again, that's 1 cup of blackberries, fresh, 1/8 of a cup of sugar, and then a tablespoon of lemon juice over a medium heat until you get a sauce. I'm going to turn that down a little bit. Sometimes these propane, turn it down a little bit because sometimes the medium on a gas stove is a little bit more than what an electric stove will produce. But we're starting to get a sauce. And the reason you want to do this layer first is so while you're working on the other layers, this has an opportunity to cool. Because this is the only layer that is cooked prior to layering. The rest of them don't get cooked until you put it in the oven. And remember, you've already preheated your oven to 400 degrees. I'll come back in a second when we have it to the right consistency. I'm going to let it cook for a minute. I wish you guys could smell this. It smells so good. Oh, by the way, I got this recipe off of Deliciously Seasoned online. I will link it in the description box so that you can see the recipe and have the recipe. It's beginning to look like a sauce. I'll be back in a minute. I want to make a cornstarch slurry with a tablespoon of water and 1.5 teaspoons of cornstarch. And mine's pink because I used the same utensil that I stirred this with this. You're going to put that in there. And then just keep stirring until the sauce thickens up. Okay, so this layer is done. So I'm going to let that sit on the sit over here and cool while I work on the next layer. Okay, for the next layer, you're going to need 2 puff pastries. Fold them out, and you're going to cut them into 8 pieces. Alrighty, so cut it in half. Since you need 8 pieces, each one of these needs to be 4. So I'll cut this in half, and then this in half. This in half, and then this in half. Oh, just love how straight I cut that. And then what you're going to do at least if I read the directions right on Deliciously Seasoned, I'm going to make it sort of look like a braid, but not really. So kind of smush these two ends together so it makes a longer piece, and then twist a little. So it kind of looks like a braid. Okay, so it looks like that. And then on your sheet pan, let's see if I can put this where you can kind of see it. You're going to spiral them in on each other. So this, and then around. Okay, so it kind of looks like that. I'm going to do the same thing with the rest of the pieces. Squish them together, create a braid, and twist the braid on the pan. We'll see what happens here. Some of them look different than others. My first one actually came out better than the second one, so we'll see as far as that goes. All right, that looks like a pretty braid. Folded in on itself. Okay, that one's coming together really nicely. It actually doesn't have like any gaps and stuff like the first one did. Maybe it's all in the fold. There you go. So there we go. So far, there's my three. My first one, my second one, my third one. I think I'm getting better as I go. All right, so I have all 8 of the bases ready to go. All I'll have to do is egg wash them and poke them 4 or 5 times in the bottom with a fork. 1, 2, 3. Okay, they've all been poked. So now we're going to work on the cream cheese layer. So a half a block or a 4-ounce block of cream cheese. You're going to add 1/4 of a cup of sugar, a tablespoon of lemon juice. No, I don't think that was it. A half of a teaspoon of lemon juice. Sorry about that. An egg yolk. And a half of a teaspoon of vanilla, if I can pick it up. There we go. All right. I will double check the lemon measurement, but I think it was half a teaspoon. Yes, it was half of a teaspoon. And then you're just going to mix all of this to combine, and then you will have your top layer. Well, actually the glaze is the top layer. We'll call it the 3rd layer of the blackberry pastry. All right, let me scrape down the edges of that. We're ready to do our layering. Take some blackberry jam compote that you put together. Put that in the center of each one. I followed the recipe and used exactly the measurements they did for the 8 pastries, but I was 1 pastry short, plus a little bit in another, of having enough blackberry compote. So if you do this recipe, I'd use like 1.5 cups of blackberries and then adjust your juice and your sugars and your, I don't think you have to do anything with the cornstarch, but your juice and your sugars to compensate for the fact that depending on how liberal you want to be with the blackberries, you may need more of the blackberry compote than what the recipe called for. This one is pure red raspberry jelly that we had in it. Just for sake of time, I didn't want to go ahead and just make a whole nother batch for this one. So we'll call that one right there an experiment and see if store-made preserves and jellies will work on the same thing. I think it will. I mean, what's not to like? So it's a little different consistency. That might be the one issue. But I'll go ahead and add the cream cheese looks like there's plenty of cream cheese, so I think we'll be okay in that layer. Yes, there was definitely plenty of cream cheese. There's actually extra. I'm going to add an egg wash to this. There's the cream cheese layer added. And, all right, and then you're going to take an egg wash and you're going to cover all the areas that are, the pastry is exposed without any cream cheese or blackberry filling, so that it all turns a golden brown in the oven. We'll pop this into the oven for 23 to 25 minutes until it's nice and golden brown. And it goes for about 25 minutes. All right, so for the glaze, you need a half a cup powdered sugar, 1.5 tablespoons of lemon juice, and a half a teaspoon of vanilla. And just mix that around until you get a nice consistency. Then when the pastries come out of the oven, let them cool completely before adding the glaze, or it'll just run everywhere. Okay, they've been in for about 23 minutes. It looks like they could use 5 or 10 minutes more. I would say trust your own oven. You know what yours does. Mine's new, and it is a gas oven that I'm not used to working with. And so I'm still learning it. So it looks like we're gonna be taking another 5 minutes and then checking it and another 5 and keep going until we get it done. I think I had to give mine about 10 extra minutes, but it was because of my oven, not because of the directions. I think in an electric oven, it probably was spot on. All right, Bill, I made you some blackberry pastries today. Let you give a little taste test and see what you think.
This may be dangerous. Mmm.
You like it?
More than like it.
Oh yeah, dangerous. It's got all the things he loves. Blackberries, cream cheese, lemon, pastry, glaze.
This is my favorite kind. I prefer like a Danish over a donut or a cupcake or a piece of pie. I think Danishes, especially if it has cream cheese and fruit, are my favorites. Right up there with them are kolaches from Texas, of course. But oh my gosh.
You think I'll have to be making those again?
Yeah, I hope you can freeze them.
I can freeze them.
Oh, this is good. Luckily, I got enough to last me at least through tonight.
I told him I had to make one of them with his red raspberry. We'll see if he likes that one as well.
Oh, that's perfect. Not too sweet. Nice and tart. That's a home run.
All right, you heard it from him, guys. If you want to make these, I think they're a winner.
Especially with the fresh wild blackberries from our property. It's so nice that we can use stuff we're finding here, you know, for either projects or food or whatever.
Yeah.
So maybe next year we'll have a bigger garden too, and we'll plant some other kinds of berry bushes. Who knows?
Who knows? Well, we have that to look forward to.
We're gonna have to bake one of these tomorrow. That's right, it's good.
It's a pretty color.
Cheers.
Cheers.